Welcome to another episode of the Everyday Disciple with Dr. Mondonico Williams. Have you ever wondered why one of the disciples in Luke chapter 11 spoke for all of the disciples and asked Jesus to teach them how to pray? Why didn't he ask Jesus to show them how to take 2 fish and 5 loaves of bread to make fish sandwiches to feed 5,000 people? Now, this number ain't including the women and children. Ever wonder why he didn't ask Jesus to show them how to turn water into wine? Merlot? Stop. Rewind. This ain't real wine. Here's what you didn't see. Nevertheless, Jesus actually turned 1 hydrogen and 2 oxygens into fermented grape juice. Now, that's a different podcast, and if you want to know more about this miracle or you want to comment on this miracle, you can do that in the section below. But the disciples weren't concerned about the how-tos of miracles or how you make water into wine or make fish sandwiches. Ever wonder why your prayers seem to go unanswered? Ever wonder why we don't get results when we pray? In this episode, I'm going to show you how Jesus got results in his ministry. And I think that reason is he spent time in prayer with the Father. So when it came time to heal, all he had to do was just speak it. Are you ready to learn more about being an everyday disciple? Sit down, let me talk to you. Prayer is what I would say is one of the most important keys to the growth and development of a believer, or one that I call a Jesus pursuer. It is the discipline you must attempt to master if you're going to disciple you or anyone for that matter. A prayerless life will stunt your spiritual growth. It is the fuel that lights the fire of the believer. It presents mere man with an opportunity to communicate with the Almighty Creator of the world. It places us, man, in the very presence of God. As a Jesus pursuer, we must learn to embrace and discipline ourselves to practice what I call the 3 P's of prayer daily. In Matthew chapter 26, verse 36 through 40, Jesus models the 3 P's of prayer as he is preparing to go to the cross for you and I. Verse 36 says this: "Then Jesus went with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, 'Sit here while I go over there and pray.'" The first P of prayer is place. When Jesus prayed, he always went to a particular place. Luke chapter 5, verse 16 tells us that he would withdraw to desolate places and pray. Luke chapter 6, verse 12 says this: "In these days, he went out to the mountain to pray, and all night he continued in prayer to God." In Matthew chapter 26, verse 36, Jesus went to a particular place to pray. He takes his disciples along with him and he gives them instructions. Notice the simple instructions he gives them. He says this, yo, y'all sit right here. I'm going to go over there and I'm going to pray. It seems as if Jesus wanted some private time. Notice, you never see Jesus praying with his disciples. I hear you young theologues out there saying, well, what about Luke chapter 11, Doc? Well, he teaches them how to pray in Luke chapter 11, but he never prays with them. You ever notice that? Why did Jesus never pray with them? Jesus never prayed with his disciples because prayer is personal. It is a private discipline. 57% of Christians surveyed said that distractions was the main impediment to their prayer life. Now, that's not to say that corporate prayer or group prayer and now Zoom prayer isn't good, but think about it. Doing corporate prayer or group prayer, how many people are actually praying? I'll wait. In corporate prayer and group prayer, you don't have to say anything. In a study in 2017, the Bonner Group found that personal faith focus plays out most explicitly in the practice of prayer. Almost all American adults, 94%, who have prayed at least once in the last 3 months, most often choose to pray by themselves. Not only are most prayers a solo practice, but the vast majority are also most often silent. 82% compared to 13% audible and solo prayers. Affirming this shift is the fact that only a very small percentage most often pray audibly with another person or group, 2%, or collectively in the church, 2%. Wow. So most people do prefer a private place to pray. Let's talk about this place that Jesus went to pray. This place was located in the Kidron Valley. The text tells us that the name of this place is Gethsemane. The name Gethsemane is probably based off an Aramaic word that means oil press, which suggests that this place was a site of an oil press within an olive grove. Might I give you this for free? Sometimes when you don't feel like praying, you gotta press. You gotta fight your flesh to get to the throne. This place was a familiar place of prayer, not only to Jesus, but also to his disciples. John tells us in his gospel in chapter 18, verse 2, that Jesus often went there with his disciples. Judas would eventually sell Jesus out there. Do you have a private place for your private time with the Father? I have a private place in my home that I like to go just to get away and talk to the Father. In my room, there's a Bible, a prayer journal, a pen, a sleeping bag, a small pillow. It's vitally important for you to find a place to meet the Father with no distractions. If you don't have a place, then I suggest you find a consistent place at a consistent time. But most of all, you need privacy. You need a place where you and God can have sweet communion. A place where you can focus in on God and he can talk to you and you can talk back. So the first P is a place, preferably a private place. After you have secured that place, it is important that you find the right, well, I'm out of time again, but not information. If you like what you are hearing, subscribe to my channel and you will get all of the latest episodes. Tune in next week. Now it's time for you to practice being an everyday disciple.